my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a good one. This is going to be a good one because I'm here with Erik Qualman. Equalman is here with me, number one best-selling author, keynote speaker. He has performed in over 55 countries and reached over 50 million people. He was voted the second most likable author in the world behind the Harry Potter series. His Socialnomics work has been on 60 Minutes, to the Wall Street Journal, and used by the National Guard to NASA. He's a current professor of digital leadership of Northwestern University, and his materials are used in over 500 universities. His animation studio works with some of the world's leading brands, including Disney, Oreo, Chase. He's a former sitting professor at MIT and Harvard's EDX labs and has received an honorary doctorate for his groundbreaking work. He's the inventor of a best-selling board game, Kitty Corn. Most importantly, he's still trying to live up to the world's greatest dad coffee mug he received from his wife and his two daughters. Welcome to the show, Erik. Wow, what a rock star. I feel like I'm talking to like a superhero, you know?
No, right back at you. It's so good to join you. I'm so excited to talk with you and your audience. It's fantastic.
Man, tell us about the story. How does one become an eco man?
Usually by mistake. Yeah, no, when you talk to a lot of people that I've been blessed to speak with that have had a lot of success, a lot of your course, your journey is really just, it's not a straight line. And so I would have never anticipated I do what I do, but I love it. I am so lucky to do what I do. In fact, when I went to graduate school at the University of Texas, graduated with about 420 students. And my good friend said, of all the people in our class, of all 420, I think that you would be the least likely to be a public speaker, like to keynote speak. And he meant it as a compliment because he knew how hard I worked on it. And I never thought I would do this. I actually, if you ever talk to me one-on-one, I sometimes have a tendency still to this day to mumble. So I actually took Toastmasters just to have regular communication skills, just to be able to talk with your friends. And I never knew it'd eventually be a benefit to have that training when I wrote my first book and they put me on stage, and then now here we are. So like a lot of people out there, you don't know what the journey's going to be like. And most people you talk to, like, oh, I didn't study this in school. And, I just kind of followed the path of what got me excited. And all of a sudden now I get to do something that I love.
It seems like you've been in some massive stages these days. You have these 5 bestsellers. You're a sold out speaker. But tell me a little bit about the journey of getting there. What did you do initially so you can gain this initial traction? Obviously, now you're a bookable speaker. Everybody wants to get you on their event. But initially, what did you do, and what were some of the struggles you might want to share with our audience?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, which some of your audience might know. That's the motor city of the world. Like, it's called the Motor City because all the car companies are based there in the United States. Most of them are historically. So I had an internship at Cadillac, and at the time, digital was this tiny, 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 tiny thing. And so I helped them on the digital pieces, and I fell into digital backwards. So I worked at Yahoo back in the 90s when we were starting out, when it's super small. I was head of marketing at Travelzoo. We took that company from private to public. So my background was always digital when digital wasn't a big thing. And then during my career, it started to grow and grow and grow. And so at Travelzoo, I was head of marketing at Travelzoo. We were big into search, like most people. So search was taking off. But then all of a sudden, I saw this thing called MySpace. And in my mind, I said, wait, this MySpace thing, this social media thing, this is going to be huge, like even bigger than search. And I was speaking at search conferences and just speaking on behalf of Travelzoo because we spent so much money on search, which at the time seemed odd, but now it's just regular. But at the time, people wanted to hear from us. How is this small company that's about to go public buying so much search engine activity? And I go, no, search is yesterday. Let's talk about social media. And so I'd go into a search room and there'd be like 1,000 people. And then I go into social media. Then they're like, Erik's going to speak on social media. There's like 3 people in there. So people are telling me, you're going to lose your job, man. You can't be talking about this teenage stuff. What are you doing? And I go, no, no, no. This is like, how can you not see it? This is going to change the way we communicate around the world. This isn't just teen stuff. This is like massive for business and massive for governments. And so, long story longer, I was in the right place at the right time. One of those three people in the audience came up to me, a friend of mine, and said, "Hey, I know a lot of people think you're crazy talking about social media since everything's all about search right now. But go talk to my publisher here in New York. I think you should write a book." And I go, "Oh, yeah, that maybe that's how I explain why this is going to be big." So that was the genesis of Socialnomics. I went up to New York. Fortunately, that meeting went well. And they said, "Yeah, we want to sign you up for the book." I was literally on a train from Boston to New York going, what would be a good title for a social media book? So I Google Socialnomics. I'm like, sweet, 0 results. That means no one's really ever typed this in their life. So that's the title I want to use, is Socialnomics. Never thought I'd write a business book. So it was a learning, but I wrote the book. It took off. I did a video, an animated piece that was about, at the time, 5 minutes. Was crazy long now I think about it, but at the time that worked. And so that went massively viral. And then they put me on stage. They said, "We want you to talk at this book expo," which turns out to be where they launch all the books in the United States, in New York, at the Javits Center. And my mom, I go, "Oh, yeah, I can swing by there. I'm treating my mom. I'm flying my mom in from Michigan to go to a Broadway show. So that weekend works." Like, here I am, not even thinking this is like some big conference. I'm like, sure, I can swing by and talk, I guess. And my mom will be there. So I'm thinking there might be just my mom in the audience. And then I show up at this thing, and my mom is the biggest Sound of Music fan. That's her favorite movie. So this is important to know. So Sound of Music's her favorite movie. We go to some Broadway shows. And then I stop by to give my talk. And I show up in this room in this Javits Center thinking, oh, I'm kind of in the basement. That's what I thought I'd be, you know. And I go down there, and there's standing room only. And there's like 800 people in this room, all people in the book industry that want to hear what Socialnomics is about. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So then all of a sudden we get done and we go up, and they've got a book signing set up. And whose booth am I next to? Sound of Music star Julie Andrews. Like, my mom couldn't be happier, right? She's like over the moon. My mom's just sitting there going, "This is crazy." Anyways, that's the start of it. And then I never knew I'd be doing this now for the next 14 years, is speaking on stage. And, I kept my job for like 4 years and kind of would take vacation days to fly to Buenos Aires to give a talk. And then after a time, I said, well, this isn't really fair to the company that I'm working with and my team. So eventually now I do it full time. So it's a long story, but I think it's important for all you listeners out there to know that all of us start really at ground zero. Whatever you're doing or whatever your passion might be, don't think, oh, this person's always been in this spot. There's no such thing as an overnight success. It's just when that door knocks, try to open it. And I haven't done that in other areas, because I talked about the animation film that went viral. So companies started calling me going, "Hey, can you do this for our company?" And I go, no, I just did that for the book. The door's knocking, and I'm sitting there not opening it. Then the third time someone called and said, "Hey, do you do these things for companies?" I'm like, absolutely. Yeah, we've got a studio. We'll make it happen. And I figured out how to make it happen. So I'll stop talking now, but I get excited about this stuff because for your audience, it's just like, go out there and do it, man. Just do it. I know you're sitting there thinking, what should I do? It's like, what you should do is do it. Like, if you want to write a book, start writing, like right now, like write the book, start writing a sentence right now.
And don't expect that it's going to happen tomorrow, because probably won't. You're looking now at the Qualman, and he's with these glasses, and he has all these millions of followers and viewers and speeches, but it's all the accumulated effect of what he's been doing for how many, maybe 20, 30 years of combined experience, right? How much experience so far, like since you started your first job?
Yeah. No, I started super young because I was an intern and just was on the digital side of things right at the beginning of it. So now we're coming in, over 3 decades, but I haven't been speaking. The general answer is like, how long have you been speaking? So paid speaking has been 13 years. Now, actually 14 now. So 14 years. But when people ask you that question, the real answer is how long you've been doing this. It's really, like you said, 30 years, because there's the Toastmasters that you're doing. Well, is that Travel Zoo? All of a sudden, the founder's amazing, but he's very introverted and German speaking. So when we go on the road for the press and also to talk to Wall Street, I'm right there with the CEO, kind of as the voice. And so you learn as you go, right? At the time, it's very painful at the beginning. I'm like, this is not what I'm enjoy or I'm good at. And all of a sudden you learn to enjoy it and you become good at it over time.
Absolutely, man. Let's talk a little bit about productivity and your own approach towards it. You've been working in some big organizations prior to becoming a speaker and
Mm-hmm.
being the man and having a team around yourself. How do you these days decide what to focus on with all the opportunities that come to you? Do you have any kind of a process that helps you to decide what to focus on?
Yeah, first of all, it's a process. It's progress over perfection. So, I mean, my last book's called The Focus Project, primarily because I was getting pulled, like all of us out there, in a lot of directions. So, like, if I'm struggling with it, and I kind of know a lot of this stuff, that everyone must be. So, let me do a project around that so I can help people out. But kind of stepping back, maybe to my career, because that's really helpful to know. When I was in organizations, big and small, whether it was AT&T, GM, or whether it was smaller like a Travel Zoo, um, is you always have these reviews with your boss. And so I'd always want to make sure that I documented what I was doing during the course of the year. And then once you started to do that, then it became more proactive. Like, what is he or she really going to care about? And so then I'd ask them, like, for the quarter, what's the most important thing for us to do? What are you going to be judged on? How can I support you? Like, as a team, what are you as the leader going to be judged on? And so that's important to know so that you're all aligned on the same page. And then the world starts. You're going to have more than you can do. And your boss is going to continue to give you stuff, and it's going to be more than you can handle. So the key is, once you've already had that conversation and know what's the most important thing we're doing, so for the quarter, for the year, you can come to them and say, look, I've got a certain amount of capacity just like you. Here's a list of everything I'm doing. Is this ordered correctly in the order of priority? And I think I can get to about, then he or she goes, yeah, that's how you order it. Let's get it ordered. And then you draw a line and go, this is what I think I can get done, like these top 5. And so then you're all on the same page. And then you document it yourself. I used to document it. Okay, I completed this project. Because let's say you only have an annual review, then it reminds you, okay, I have done this. And if you have metrics behind it, even better. Like, we launched a search campaign and we're able to grab this many customers from that campaign, and any more details that you have. So then that's super helpful for not only to rise in the ranks in the corporation, but also to make sure what your day-to-day should be. Um, and then, so shifting gears real quick, now what do I do on a day-to-day level? Since I'm kind of, quote unquote, the boss, the owner of the company, but you're never the boss, right? You're always beholden to customers. You're always beholden to fans, whatever it is you're doing, volunteers if you're in a nonprofit. So you're never really, really ever the top dog. There's always someone that you're beholden to. But what I do is I have more flexibility than most because of what I do. Is I make sure that I write down the night before, what's the one thing that if I do it well, makes anything else either easier or unnecessary. Um, and so that's what I try to do the night before, to write that down. It helps me sleep better. The neuroscience shows that if you write it down, then you're not going to think about it. Because a lot of you listeners are like me, your brain's just thinking about that thing you need to be doing. But if you write it down, it tricks your brain and saying you can rest tonight because it's going to be sitting there on that pad of paper on your phone when you get up in the morning. But most importantly, when you get up, it's a reminder, don't just go to email. This is the one thing you need to attack today in order for it to have success tomorrow. So hopefully that helps. We can get into other stuff, but that's it at a super high level.
I love it, man. And we actually had Jay Papasan, the co-author of the book, The One Thing,
Oh,
as a
nice.
guest
Yeah,
on
he's
the
my
podcast.
neighbor.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's a good guy. I'm good friends with him. He's a great
he's a
guy.
great guy, man. Yeah,
He's great. Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. He's
A
great.
humble guy, doing so many things, and at the same time, always so calm. Meaning he's actually living what he's teaching.
Yeah. Jay's great. Jay's awesome.
I love it, man. Yeah, I love what you're saying also for the people who are not founders, entrepreneurs, having their own companies, the best way to be ahead of everybody as an employee is asking these kind of questions. Because
Yeah.
I work with many teams, man. You go to the teams, and usually a manager or HR hires you to come to help the team. You go start talking to the team, and they're like, I don't know what my priorities are. I'm overwhelmed. I have so much
Yeah.
on my to-do list. I'm not really sure what's within my scope of responsibility, what is not. Like, so all these kind of common challenges they're having, but being proactive as an employee, nobody teaches you in the business school. I finished the business school, right?
Yeah.
Nobody teaches you go and be proactive and ask your manager, hey, here is my list of things that I think I should focus on based on our objectives. What do you think is my biggest priority? What's the one thing I should focus on this quarter? This is
Mhm.
what I think. What do you think? And then it's
Yep.
clear. We're on the same
Yeah.
page. We can make adjustments. So
It
great,
just
great
shows you
way.
care. Your boss gonna love it if you do that, and they might not even know the answer. So then they go, "Whoa, I gotta get my stuff in order. So let me go talk to my boss."
And this is what you do on a daily basis. You said you ask yourself this question to make sure that you prioritize the one thing that matters. What about quarterly, yearly? Do you, I mean, again, you're probably not a team of 5,000 people, right now. So some of the strategies that work for bigger organizations might not be applicable for you and your team. But what do you do? Do you say, well, this year we need to do 50 keynotes and we need to publish it? Like, how do you prioritize the bigger picture and kind of break it down into small digestible kind of tasks?
No, it's a great question, and you're exactly right. Is a lot of the concepts hold true for both large corporations and also small businesses, but there is different nuances, obviously. But we're a very, very lean team here. We just have amazing chief of staff. We have a director of partnerships. We always have 4 interns from University of Texas, and then we have some contractors that we have with us that are. We've got part-time employees, and we have contractors for these larger animation deals that we do. So it's good. It's a flexible model with a lot of your listeners are in the same boat. So that's why I just want to explain that, because a lot of listeners are like, oh, I can identify with that. And also, obviously, I have the experience working at large corporations as well. But to answer your question, for the year, 90% of us are visual learners. And so I'm in the same boat. I love visuals. And so I'll literally just take a piece of paper out. I used to sketch it by freehand, but now there's so much good clip art and just art out there online that I'll go and grab art for the goals and then have the numbers near the art. So it's a beautiful thing. It's all black and white. So I start the year black and white. And as we get progression on that, this is for me individually, not as a team. This is me as an individual. And then I would color it in. So I colored in with coloring pencils as we get closer to completion. For example, I want to do XYZ book. So I have the cover of the book, black and white, and a launch date next to it, or when I want to have it completed. And so I'll color it in as we get closer to that completion. That's just an example. On the personal side, whatever you want to do. So personal side, I'm big into golf right now. So I want to lower my handicap. So I want to get that handicap down to under 10. So I'll have a picture of a golf ball on grass, and it's in black and white, and I'll have the number 10 on that golf ball. And as we progress towards that goal, I start to color in the grass green. I might make the tee yellow, whatever it might be. And so that's super helpful for me to have that mind map, that visual representation throughout the year. Now, as a team, what we want to do is we've got tons of things we can do, but what we want to do is we do islands. So we have a map, looks like an old treasure map, and it has these islands on it. We only have 5 islands on the map. Perfect world probably be 3, to be honest. But the bigger the more important the item. So for me, speaking kind of helps with everything that we do. Speaking helps you sell more books. Speaking helps you get animation deals. Speaking helps your social following. So that's the one thing that kind of helps everything. That's important for us to be good, to get speaking deals, to book on stage. So I'm out and about speaking around the world. So we know that that's the most important one. So that's the biggest island. Then we have the number on that island. Let's say I limit my speaking deals to 52 a year because we can get into family. I don't want to miss, my kids are growing up, so I don't want to miss that special time with them. So we have a rule in place that we put in place about 7 years ago. So 52 nights away from my kids is maximum I'll be gone. Now, that usually equates to maybe 60 speaking deals a year because in the summer, the girls can fly with me. There's sometimes I'm in Austin. They have a lot of events here in Austin, especially now that, you got Matthew McConaughey, Joe Rogan, you got Brian Holiday, you got Tim Ferriss. So a lot of folks have moved here. A lot of authors have moved here to Austin, Texas. And so a lot of the events can be in Dallas, Austin, San Antonio. So that doesn't count as a night away because I just drive in, speak, and then I'm back that same night. I can see my kids. And so that island would have that number 52, let's say, on there. And then the island's either red, yellow, green throughout the course of the year. Red means we're not on par to hit goal. Yellow means we're on par to hit goal. Green means we're ahead of goal. And so that's one of the islands that we have on there. Another island might be book sales. And so same concept. You put the number of book sales that you want to have for the year on there. Let's say 50,000 books. And then it's either red, yellow, green, depending on what's happening for that timetable. So that's every week we review those islands. And the key analogy here is that as a team, you've got to be in sync rowing towards those islands. If someone's rowing the other way, it's going to slow the boat down tremendously. And so you'd be better off not rowing at all than rowing the wrong way. And so that's just to try to get the team in alignment. And the reason you'd row the wrong way, so what would that look like, is you get pulled away by busy things rather than big things. So everyone's industry is different, but for us, busy might be that, hey, you can do XYZ podcasts. Like that could chew up all your time. So we pick selective podcasts like this one, like really good ones, to make sure that we're on those, but we're not going to be on the 10 others that request us. And that's a learning, right? You've got to always ask, and you always ask the team as well, hey, what are you doing that relates to speaking? Because we own Socialnomics.net. Great thing. It produces revenue. It's got, it's an ad revenue model. We've got great columnists from around the world that write for it. But that's not the biggest island. And so if that's consuming 80% of our time, which it can easily do, if you ever run like a blog or a website like that, can easily consume all your time, is you've always got to pause and ask yourself, how much time am I allocating towards the big island? And that's a constant, like you've got to stop almost every day and ask yourself. And some days I'm supposed to know this inside and out because I just wrote a book on it. And I say at the beginning, look, there's days that I slip. So it's progress, not perfection when it comes to your focus. And it's like a muscle. You got to train it. I've become better, but I still slip back into old habits and get pulled by the busy.
You seem like a really passionate man. And with all the opportunities coming in your direction, I'm wondering, and I'm sure this is a question everybody listening would be asking themselves. How did you learn to say no, especially when there's so many great opportunities in front of you, but you know that you cannot take them all?
Yeah, I mean, a learned process, because especially when the book took off, the first one, it's like you wanted to grab, it's your first time getting reached out by everybody. And so you want to grab every opportunity. And then you quickly realize, if I say yes to everyone, I'm really saying no to everyone. So let's say, for example, the hardest people to say no to is say to volunteer your time to help a needy cause. Is if you say yes to every charitable organization that reached out to you for your time, then you're really saying no to everyone because you're going to not be able to do it well, that many things. And so I like to think of it as like a surgeon. So if you're an operating doctor or a surgeon, you're actually limited in certain countries about how many hours you can operate, because at a certain point you become detrimental to the patient. And so that's why those laws in place. But as a surgeon, you want to save every life. But that's why those rules are put in place, because you actually might be very detrimental to the patient. If you're saying yes as a surgeon to everyone, you're going to be exhausted. You're not going to operate as well. So that's why those laws in those place. And so you've got to put those walls in place for yourself. And you interview the most successful people in the world, which you have. I've been fortunate to talk to a lot of them. The one thing they have in common is they're basically saying no to almost everything so they can say yes to the big opportunities. And it's a learned process. So I was fortunate to learn it during the Focus Project. How do I say no? Because most of us, you're like me, you're a people pleaser, which you generally serves you well. For thousands of years, that's how you assimilate within a tribe. It's good to be a people pleaser to a certain extent, but you really need to learn the power of saying no so you can say yes to the big opportunities. So I'm going to say this a couple ways. You got the surgeon example. For some of you, that's going to resonate. You're like, boom, I got it. I got to say no. Others, you're more kind of business oriented. You got to think about it like you've got all these boxes. All these boxes are on the shelves, just like inventory of your product or your service. You've got all these boxes. And all those boxes say yes on them. They're a limited amount. So every time you say yes, you're taking that box off the shelf and you're limiting. All of a sudden, you're becoming limiting of how many you have left. So you've got to remember you've got a certain finite inventory of yeses. So you really want to say yes to the big things, not to those busy opportunities. So you're saving those boxes for those big opportunities. Then the other way that I was able to do it, and this is just a story, is I like to volunteer my time when my kids, especially when they're younger, at Sunday school, in church. And so historically, they don't have a lot of volunteers for the boys when they're younger because they're a little harder to handle usually than the girls. There just weren't a lot of volunteers for the boys. And so, but I want to be with my girls. I'm traveling. Like I want to spend as much time as I can with my girls. So when I volunteer as a teacher in Sunday school, I want it to be with my girls. And so I felt like a jerk though, because, like, oh, I only volunteer this way. Like I'll volunteer, but it has to be under my rules. And so I felt kind of bad about it, but then I'm writing the book on the focus project. It was the perfect time to test this out. So they asked me to volunteer. I go, yeah, I'll volunteer. I'm signed up to volunteer for my girls' classes. I'm on it. And they go, oh yeah, we don't have enough volunteers for the boys. Do you mind volunteering for the boys? And I go, I'd really like to help out. Sorry you got a shortage, but I really want to spend time with my girls. So I'm sorry. I just want to volunteer with my girls. And I'm like, I can't believe I wrote that. Amazing. This focus project book. I can't believe I did it. Finally, I was able to write that. Perfect. Done. Nope. A couple days later, hey, we got your note. We're really in a tight spot. Are you sure you can't do the boys this weekend? I was like, oh man, if I'm not writing this book, I would have crumbled and said, sure, I got the boys. But I go, no, I'm writing this book. I got to figure this out. So I copy and paste exactly what I'd written before, basically, adjusted a couple things, but that was it. Copy and paste what I'd written before, send it back. And then she goes, I get the reply. She goes, okay, great. We've switched one of the moms is going to go cover on the boys. So you can teach the class. The mom's going to kind of cover the boys. Now, it turned out that the mom actually enjoyed working with the boys better. And it's not always going to be the case. It's not always going to be rainbows and unicorns like my daughters say, but it's not always going to work out like that. But it's turned out to work better for her. Obviously, it works better for me. But it was really refreshing for me to see. And that was the point in my life to where I'm like, oh, this works so well. Now I've learned better. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm much, much better at saying no. And here's the litmus test. Here's how you say no. So if it's not a hell yes, it should be a hell no. Like if someone says, I got tickets to the Olympics in Paris, hell yes, I'm going, man. That's awesome. I'll take those tickets. If it's, hey, we've got a networking event on Friday, you're like, that'd probably be good for my career. But you're not like all in it. It's not a hell yes. Then that should be a hell no. And so that's a good way to think about it. If it's not a hell yes, it should be a hell no, primarily because you want to save those yeses for those future big opportunities that are out there.
And you want to have the space to prepare, to be present. I had these situations in the past where I overbook myself because everything looks amazing and I want to be everywhere. And oh my God. And then it's like you have no space to breathe.
Yeah.
And you're not your best. You're not at your best. You can't show up. You're just always in this tension and stress. And but you said it really well. And maybe I'm going to paraphrase it, but you can be kind and you can protect your boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You need systems to do it. System being, in this case, a copy and paste email. Someone reaches out, hey, can you help review this chapter of my new book? And you really want to help them. You do. But you don't, that's not going to fall in the bucket of the hell yes. It's just not, you just don't have the time. And so it's copy and paste. Love to help you. It's immediate no too. You don't want it to linger because that person needs to know if you can't help them, they got to go to the next person. So you're actually doing them a service by telling them no. Or if it's in sales, hey, do you want to buy our product? No. That actually helps that salesperson. Now they can close that out and move on to the next sale. So you're actually helping them out the quicker. If you know you're going to say no, the quicker you say it, the better. It helps that person out. It also gets it off your mind. And the way you do that is just have a system in place, copy and paste. So for me, I have a template. If I go, that's not an opportunity I want to pursue, then I just copy and paste. Hey, this is a great opportunity. It's not for me because I'm heads down on this book trying to complete it. Now, what most people will do is say, but maybe in a couple of weeks I might be able to help. No. If you know you're not going to like it now, you're not going to like it in a couple of weeks. Occasionally that's true. Occasionally it's just like that moment in time you don't have time to do it. But for most of the time, that's not the case. So don't put that sentences because they will reach out back to you. It's just like, nope, this is a great opportunity. It's not for me. Thanks for reaching out. I'm heads down on my book, but I wish you the best of luck.
I just wanted to let that sink for the audience. For those of you who are just like us, naturally people pleasers.
Yeah.
But you gotta learn. You gotta learn. And Erik, maybe to expand on that topic a little bit, the balance between professional and personal, which is not a thing, right? When you have so many opportunities, how do you manage to find the right? I don't even know the balance is the right word, but how do you find the right place, spot, sweet spot? Like, do you have any periods that you're more busy professionally and some other periods that you kind of balance out? Or like, what do you do to have good boundaries and enjoy good personal life as well?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I don't think balance is the right word. I think it's more harmony because you are doing trade-offs. There's always a trade-off. You're trading your time. So you're trying to figure out what are those trade-offs and how does it look? Harmony is a good word because, for example, I like to do handwritten notes to our partners to thank them. And so then you can get the girls involved. So I like handwrite the note. I'm a visual person. I want the note to stand out. So I'll draw. I'm not a very good artist, so it doesn't matter. You're not a good artist. I just draw like thanks and then draw some image, whatever that might be. I was so lucky to be on stage. So it might be a 4-leaf clover. Like I draw 4-leaf clover. But then the girls can color that in. Like they're with me. I hand them off. They color them in. And I can say, hey, my girls helped me with this. They might address the letter as well. And they know it's just being human, right? I've got kids. Yeah, it's like kids' handwriting coming to you. That's fine. Because they're sitting there helping, put the stamps on those envelopes, helping writing. So that's what I mean. Look for those times to where there is harmony. But that's not always the case. So you got to figure out what works best for you. So for some people, like dads I know that say are speakers, they're for them, they need to be on the road a lot more than I am. So that's just, if they're not on the road, they're just not good at home. Like it means that they need to have that break, that reset, that travel, that energy. And so for them, they might do 100 gigs a year, which is fine. Like you got to figure out what works best for you and your family, and everyone's different. For me, I've learned quickly no, absolutely not. And so you got to figure out, you got to put these guardrails in place for what does it look like. So for me, basically, I look at my schedule every day as much as I can for weeks out and I call it cowboy and cowgirl scheduling. You want to fence off specific times for yourself and you want to leave some wide open space for that thinking. So think about Texas has fences and then wide open space. It's the song, if anyone's familiar with it. But that's why we call it cowboy scheduling. Is you want to fence off specific times for yourself and for your family, and also make sure that schedule's not completely packed. That you have wide open spaces for thinking time and to relax and to kind of reset. So for me, the family level is basically when you hit 5 o'clock, it'd be rare that I do anything beyond 5 o'clock. That's set aside for me driving my girls to their sporting events, watching their events, and just making sure you take advantage of that. But also then it helps you set, if you're thinking about watching like a TV show or watching TikTok for 2 hours, you now know that that's stealing time from your family. So that's harder to do. Like if I'm on the road in a hotel, that's when I've got to be really productive with work because I'm away from the family. I'm in the hotel. As much as I'd want to sit there and say, watch some sporting event for 4 hours or watch a movie or get on TikTok for 2 hours, you've got to understand, is this worth it? Because I'm not going to have as much time with my family. And then you quickly realize it's not. So that helps. I'm not saying you don't have to ever go on TikTok or watch a sporting event. It's just you want to make sure when you do it, you're like, okay, I need this time to relax and it's worth it. So you got to ask yourself, is it worth it what I'm doing? And that's really what focus is all about. It's constantly being present. What am I doing and what should I be doing? Um, and it relates to like the food. Like if you look at food, you go and your focus is you're at the buffet and you're like, is this chocolate croissant and worth it for me to eat it, knowing that I have to be on the treadmill now for 20 minutes, whatever. And so 20 minutes, and you go, yep, it's worth it. This thing is delicious, man. This thing is awesome. Totally worth it. I'm going to eat it. Other times you're like, wow, this thing's, it's not that great. So you take a bite, you're like, no, that's not worth it. I'm going to leave it aside. Or you don't even order it. So it's really just ask yourself anything, whether it's time, like, is it worth it me being on TikTok for an hour and a half now instead of working for maybe being on TikTok maybe for 20 minutes, than being at work for that hour, 10 minutes. And so it's really just always being present and ask yourself, what am I doing and what should I be doing?
Right. Intentionally choosing your priorities and allocating your time, energy, resources accordingly. Thank you so much, Erik, for being with us. Final question: where could people find you, learn more from you? Maybe share a little bit. There's several books that you have. Share some of them so people can follow and maybe follow your journey as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, I'm easy to find. My parents named me Erik Qualman, which when they hand out email addresses, first initial, last name, equal man. So I got lucky with that one. I didn't like it for 15 years because it'd be in a meeting, say at Cadillac, they're like, oh man, we're out of coffee. Well, equal man, you must be super fast. You got a superhero name. Why don't you run down the street and get us some coffee? So I didn't really like it at first, but then I realized, wait, this isn't happening to me, this is actually happening for me. So let's embrace it. I won't get into the details on the story. It's a much longer story of why I wear the green glasses. Again, kind of fell into that backwards, but just a reminder for people to be kind. So when people, no matter what you look like, just be kind, be kind, be kind. But the short answer is I'm equal man across the board. Reach out to me. Happy to help as much as I can. And such a wonderful time to be with you and your audience. Hopefully get over to Bulgaria soon. It's been on my bucket list for a long time.
I would love to have it here, man. And thanks everybody for listening, being part of the Productivity Mastery community. If you enjoy this episode, make sure to share it with a friend, with somebody that will get value from it as well. See you once again next time for another episode from the Productivity Mastery series. Bye.